Let's get to the technicals, and Peter McGuire from XM joins me now live via Skype. Peter, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, good morning, Danielle. Lovely to be here.
Okay, so much going on at the moment. So we have to focus a little bit though, Peter, because really moving parts in the markets doesn't do justice to how many potential points there are this week. So let's start. Given geopolitics and potential more dovish tone, maybe more hawkish tone from the Fed, let's have a look at the gold daily chart and what you're seeing there, because we might see a reaction in gold.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's pushed up and you can't deny it. It's been, 2050. It needs to break, I think, a little bit higher, and then it could be off to the races. Your understanding is, of course, what you mentioned from a geopolitical stance. And that's always an unknown, and where the Fed plays this week as far as do we see just rhetoric coming from Fed Chair Powell. But the overall theme, I think, is going to be a little bit up from here, and we've just got to, see the momentum, if it is to be bought into this, or is there a time and a consolidation and it trades softer. We're looking at currencies, and we're also looking at from a geopolitical. Danielle?
As I said, so many moving parts this week. And of course, one of the big moving parts, Peter, is the 5 of the Mag 7 reporting, starting with Microsoft and Alphabet after the close on Tuesday in the US. Now, let's have a look at that Microsoft chart, because, wow, it kind of looks a little bit of a rocket emoji, zoom to the moon.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can't deny they've been extraordinary over the last year, excluding Tesla. The rest have been very, very strong. And it's just, where do that's been the attraction, Danielle, as far as everyone jumping in over the last couple of months. And over the last 3 months, it's been extraordinary. So traders are incredibly bullish. And until they see some form of pullback, I think that everyone's going to maintain those long positions. But again, we just wait for the news to drop and see how the market reviews or takes on board these reports.
Absolutely. Now, of course, there has been ongoing focus between what the Bank of Japan, if they're going to stop their yield curve control, and what the US dollar, Japanese yen has been doing. So what are we going to see there? It looks like quite a prolonged period of consolidation, Peter.
Well, exactly. I mean, when you're looking at the numbers at the moment, I've just made a note here, you're at around 147.25 for the Japanese yen. You've got, as far as the US dollar is concerned, you're running at around about 103.50, Danielle. So we'll see where it goes. The Japanese yen also has been on the back of an incredibly strong Nikkei 225, and you're running at 34, 35-year highs. So it's been incredibly strong. And, do we hit that 37, 38 sort of thousand number shortly? Then the next part is, where does the yen play? And do we see, as far as UEDA, are they going to raise rates? I think they may just wait and see what the ECB, naturally what the Fed does, and other central bankers, because I don't think they're in really any hurry at the moment, Danielle.
Oh, interesting. Now, in terms of sterling, the Bank of England meeting this week, the first, so many central banks, potentially the big one, FOMC, of course, this week as well. What are you sort of expecting here? I mean, are the ECB was pushing back on being dovish. Are we going to see a similar tone out of the Bank of England?
Well, I think so. I don't think they'd want to go first off, and so I think they'll just sit on their hands again. As far as a probability, you're running at about 50 or 60%. But I think the big picture is, where does the pound play in the short term? You're running at the moment around that 1.2717. It's been choppy. It's been down to that 123 up to 128, and everywhere in between. So until we see something definitive, I think it's going to stay in that sort of range. And again, currencies have been dynamic in this quarter, or in the start of this quarter, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon for the rest of the 8 weeks.
Okay, and what about the euro versus the US dollar? Because they did meet last week, and as I said, from what I could glean, pushing back on the I suppose dovish tone that they would be the first central bank to drop rates.
Well, exactly. You're sitting at around about 1.0830 at the moment, Danielle, against the dollar. The US dollar index is running at about 62% as far as a weighting with the euro. So until we see something definitive happen with the US dollar index, and that'll come off Fed Chair Powell's comments, then do we see a blast to the upside, or do we, it maintains at this sort of channel between 102 and 104? So again, until we see breakouts, then I think that will provide big moves for traders, not just intraday trading.
Okay, now I just saw on an alternative media site that somebody is very bullish about Meta. And let's face it, I think it's at record highs, that share price as well. We might just have a look at that chart, Peter, because it doesn't look too dissimilar to the Microsoft chart.
No, it's smoking hot, and there's no doubt about it. I mean, they've slashed thousands of jobs in 2023 to improve operational efficiency. They seem to, all their cards have aligned, and it seems to be plenty of blue sky at the moment. So that could be a very strong push again to the upside. It's nothing short of outstanding as far as with reducing costs, but the advertising has been very strong to their bottom line perspective. So overall, you'd have to say that it's possibly got even further upside to go in the short to medium term, Danielle.
Okay, and last but not least, the market's daily performance across a number of asset charts or asset classes. We'll just have a look at that because it gives us quite a clear look. For example, I suppose the one that might surprise a lot of people is how benign the crude oil price has been given the geopolitical tensions.
Well, yeah, I mean, it rallied strongly. We're off around about 1.4%. I'm just looking at the screen here now in the current trading session. So there's the first part. I really would have thought that you might have had a leg up after that the Jordanian situation and the fueling of the fire, so to speak. But that hasn't been the case. You've got an OPEC Plus meeting on Thursday. That'll be a virtual meeting, Danielle, and we've just got to see how rhetoric comes from the members. But the overall situation, I think, is going to be if these continued hotspots gain traction and more geopolitical concerns rise above the tide, then I'm sure that you're going to see stronger prices for crude in the short to medium term, and that's certainly not what the central banks are after.
Okay, Peter, thank you so much. Very interesting, and we'll be all, well, some of us, I will be at least, glued to my screen when those big tech results come out tomorrow. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Danielle.